Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the undergraduate webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to the Ashoka community. I'm Jinal Shah, Assistant Director Outreach. Thank you for joining us for today's session, a very special panel discussion with some of our students and their parents to discuss why they chose Ashoka as their destination for the undergraduate program. Without further delay, I'd like to welcome our panel of speakers. We have with us today Varnima Agarwal from Kolkata. She's currently at the campus in Sonipat and she's pursuing her first year at Ashoka and intends to major in economics and finance. Joining her is our mother, Shilpa Agarwal, who's a freelance advocate from Kolkata. Welcome, Varnima. Welcome, Shilpa.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have our second panelist, Tamanna Balachandran, who's from Mumbai, again joining us from the campus. She's pursuing her first year at Ashoka. She intends to major in biology. Joining her is her mother, Rita Balachandran, who's an independent career counselor and a guidance counselor at JBCN International School, Mumbai. Welcome, Tamanna. Welcome, Rita.
Thank you so much, Jinal.
Our third set of panelists is Udayan Mehra. He's from Delhi. He's pursuing his fourth year at Ashoka. He's majored with economics and minor in international relations and political science. He's joined by his father, Ravish Mehra, who's an architect. Welcome, Udayan, and welcome, Ravish. And lastly, we have Anushka Kapoor from Bangalore. She's an Ashoka graduate from the batch of 2018. She's an alum. She's majored in economics and finance and is currently working as a senior associate strategy and operations at Craftshala. She's joined today by her mother, Vinti Kapoor, who's an homemaker. Thank you all for taking your valuable time to join us this evening. Without further ado, let's get started. I just have a few set of announcements before we get this panel started. So, audience, if you have any questions, please type it in the Q&A box provided on your Zoom screens and we'll address them towards the end of the session. So let's get started and I'll have my first set of questions and we'll keep it interactive. We'll have the parents and students, and the alums sharing their experiences with all of you. So my first question, and we'll start with you, Varnima, is while you were looking at deciding on your university and college, what were really your, things that you were taking into consideration? If you could just, give us some insight into that, because the audience also is set of parents and students who are at that, junction of making that decision on choosing their careers, choosing their colleges. So if you could just reflect back and go back and tell us what was your deciding factors. Varnima, we'll start with you, and Shilpa ma'am, you can also add in.
Yes.
So the first thing that I really wanted in my undergrad college experience was a small close-knit community. And Ashoka, being a liberal arts school, was a great destination for the same. At the same time, in spite of being a small campus and community, it provides a world-class education. So there's no compromise on the education that Ashoka provides. Also has within a span of 7 to 8 years, it's been able to create a great brand name and value for itself. And the financial aid program at Ashoka is something that's really very strong. And that was also one of my primary considerations because I'm a financial aid student personally, and something extravagant was not possible for me. So Ashoka's financial aid program really helped me attain a world-class education at such affordable and reasonable costs. And intending to major in eco and finance, I think Ashoka's economics faculty is really renowned. There's no question about that. And there were some very specific courses in eco and finance, even entrepreneurship, that really intrigued me. So these were some of the factors that I took into consideration while pinning down on Ashoka as my final destination.
Sure, Varnima, absolutely. And I know that the decision is turning right for you. And congratulations and sharing that you've been on financial aid and, you made it to Ashoka's financial aid as well. Shilpa ma'am, you would like to share something as a parent, what were really your points that you were looking into consideration while you were, looking at a university for Varnima?
Yes, so like I have already mentioned in my testimonial, so it's such a beautiful interwoven fabric, the Ashokan environment. So it's almost like a home away from home. And since she's a single child, so you know what is a single child syndrome. You don't like to really send your daughter too far away. But getting a very, very congenial environment for the child's growth in terms of a college like Ashoka has been so gratifying. Plus, what I could see getting through the admission process, if I could use this term, was almost like a cakewalk. What was more gratifying was that their recognition of my child's potential. If I may mention, my daughter has been a state level topper. She's been the topper on the India level. She
Wonderful.
ranked second highest in her boards. Yeah. So with that kind of a potential, I mean, it was just not justified to settle for any other college, other than Ashoka. And Ashoka, with its obviously displayed a lot of generosity in terms of providing the financial aid we so required, especially me as a single mother. So we were really looking at it, and yes, Ashoka really helped us by providing us the necessary aid. So we're really thankful for that.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm definitely Varnima has been deserving, and so she's being able to make it there. And I could resonate when you said, you want your child to get the maximum, in terms of, when you're looking at a university selection, definitely.
Yeah.
So I'd like to move on to the second set of parents and students that we have, and I want to hear from them as well. Tamanna and Rita, would you want to share in terms of when you were making this decision of looking at universities, colleges, what were really the factors that you were looking into consideration, Yeah, Tamanna, you want to go first, and then we can ask your mom to share some experience as well. Yeah.
Sure, I can go first. So my particular context, when I was looking at, what are my options for my undergraduate studies, my context was we knew and we had decided as a family that for my undergraduate studies, that I would stay in India. And that I was completely taken by and fascinated by this liberal arts type of education. So my two major, I wanted to pursue study in this liberal arts way. But I had this additional caveat that I knew I wanted to do biology. And in India, we currently, I feel, have quite limited options when it comes to liberal arts universities. And with this additional requisite of, I want to do bio, that actually eliminated even more options for me. But with the options I had left, the major factors that I wanted to look at were, one, I knew I wanted to do biology, but I was still open to exploration, so I wanted to go to a university that gave me plenty of option when it came to a major minor combination. I wanted to have some more technological options like maybe CS, maybe some creative options like visual arts. So I wanted to keep those options open. Another very important thing for me was the quality of the faculty at the institution. A lot of the institutions I looked at, they would barely have 4 or 5 faculty for biology, because at least, now most people, maybe they don't think that liberal arts and science is exactly synonymous, which I don't believe anymore, and I can elaborate on that. But yeah, there was very limited selection in terms of faculty at some universities. Whereas Ashoka, I found we have like 17 full-time faculty and even more visiting faculty. And that for me meant that, there was so much diversity even within biology of the fields that I would, get to experience. The chances of me finding a faculty who is studying the same niche that I'm passionate about, those chances were really high. And that, maybe I would be able to do research with them or work in their labs. So those academic opportunities were really important to me. And some of the other factors, of course, were also things like, the student culture, the freedom, the location, the proximity to home, or maybe some relatives, and of course, affordability was also a big priority for us. So yeah, that was like our discussion.
Sure. Yes. Very comprehensively, I think a lot of students do consider, and I think should consider these factors, that you've highlighted, the faculty, the research opportunities, all of those, definitely. Rita, I'd like to hear from you, considering that you are in the domain of career counseling, and of course, you chose the best for your daughter, but you every day counsel students, have them make career choices, have them select universities, destinations, all of that. So you have a very broader picture of this, and I'd like to hear from you in terms of what are really the factors that you considered for Tamanna, or generally also that you recommend students to look at when they're looking at a university and selecting and going through this whole process of college selection.
Thanks, Jeenal. So yeah, being in the domain of career counseling and working with the school and working independently as well, I get to interact with a lot of students on a day-to-day basis, and I strongly believe that every student has got their own niche and are looking for the right fit university. So while you select where you would like to study, whether in your own home country or outside, especially at the undergrad level, it's also important to understand how you want to study. So the experience that you want to create for yourself. And for Tamanna, as she said, that, this way of combining multiple majors or minors and not having just one fixated interest in a certain field as bio, because she's also a creative person and she writes a lot. So those kind of areas are also equally as important as studying a bio major. So that was one of the reasons. I was introduced to this liberal art concept when I met a couple of people from Ashoka who had visited our school. And, that was a time that I got to introduce and experience it through various webinars. And Tamanna in her research journey also had attended many master classes, many sessions to understand what exactly. So we have a huge range of liberal art universities, but I believe that everyone has a different diversity and specialization. So she had attended a lot of classes before she actually made that choice for Ashoka as well. We ensured that we, take a campus tour before, because the place where you're wanting to stay for 4 years, you should know and experience that. And so we took a campus tour for that, and it's it's a healthy mix of students from all places. So you learn through that culture. And while, as she said, that financial aid was also equally an important part, and as Shilpa said, it was very gratifying because we got a lot of support during that time. Every process that we were asked to fulfill, we got responses within 24 hours of any kind of query that we had raised at that time. So we had a wonderful experience before joining the university. And I feel Ashoka provides a very good mix of education, academic rigor, excellence, apart from the opportunities which are also possible, post. Every student will plan out a journey, not just to undergrad level, but even for masters. What are those opportunities available? And I felt the kind of university alignments that you have, that also is a huge opportunity for anyone, not just for Tamanna, but for anyone.
Sure, definitely. Yes. Thank you, Rita, for sharing that broader, perspective. Moving on, I'd like to, pose the same question to Udayan and Ravish. I think you were most closest to the campus. You're based in Delhi. But I'm sure there were multiple other factors that you looked into while, deciding on your university selection. So do you want to talk about that experience, Udayan and Ravish both? Yeah.
So I think a lot of the reasons that I had are similar to Tamanna as well as Vandima. But of course, getting this kind of education close to home with the option of going back home whenever I needed. Just for instance, today I came back home from campus without any issue. And they're great facilities. They have a shuttle service that drops us to the metro, which is, I mean, 1 hour away from campus, and it's great. Like, so there's always an option for me to figure out what I want to do. Coming to my studies as well, I was in my 12th, I had done science with economics, and I wanted to keep my options open into the kind of fields I wanted to get into. And so having that option till I came to Ashoka was also very, very valuable and important factor for me to consider. But also the interdisciplinary courses that are there, the option to take multiple minors and concentrations, how you plan is completely up to you. You decide what you want to take according to certain department policies, but that option is present to all students. And I think before I came, I asked certain professors and teachers, what is why Ashoka, as well as the question I had. And something they told me was that the studies that are there, the research that is going on is very contemporary. It's what's happening around us. It's not a syllabus that is 20 years old. It is what's being taught today, the phenomena that are going on today. In a lot of my courses, I even, let's say last year, I was looking at COVID for that matter. There was a discussion in one of my health economics course. And from that front, I think these were a very important factors for me to consider as well. So you want to...
While we were deciding for Udyan's graduation, we did have options of looking at sending him overseas, but we are very firm believer that if A-grade education is available within our country, I don't think it's a great idea to send, especially for undergraduation, because these are highly formative years, and what we learn in these years is also important. Most of the students who end up studying overseas at the graduation level, very few of them come back. And then we have seen many students like wanting to just stay on and, being in their comfort zone in the West. But I happen to be in a kind of a profession, and I also sort of travel diversely, travel out of India and even have worked outside on projects. So I think the future of the world, or the future of not only geopolitics, also the geoeconomics is in the East. And because we are the large population, I'm not just saying just merely India, but I'm talking of entire region.
True.
So I actually feel that the children or all the people who have gone probably one day would actually feel that, we are better off in India. At the same time, doesn't mean that we should not give them the opportunity of having an international exposure, learning overseas. But what I feel that Ashoka type of university, and if I may call it an experiment, please allow me to call it an experiment, since I'm part of, I'm also an academician, I'm a visiting faculty in schools of architecture. So I consider that education is always evolving. It is not something static. It is not something, unfortunately, at our school level, we have a little rigid systems because of the whatever CBSE and all those programs. I think most students would agree with me. And at a higher level, if you have the flexibility in terms of choosing your subject, I don't know, the students will tell me, because we have been looking at outside, perhaps even choosing your faculty and experiencing a totally diverse set of subjects and curriculum, which gives them a very wide worldview, not only within India, but also a global experience. So I think Ashoka offers all that. And of course, I don't want to speak too long, but I just want to say one of the last but not the least important aspect was when we went on the campus tour. I think it didn't take me 1 second to decide. In fact, I still joke with Udyan that, I wish I could join this campus. I wish I had this kind of a campus to join. Thank you.
Yeah, Prabhashar, so often I've heard parents, coming back and saying, this wasn't there in our times and I wish we'd studied. And so do I also feel every time I'm on the campus that, I don't mind going back to campus and, studying once again, definitely. But yes, I think you brought in a very, very important aspect that, a lot of parents today are contemplating between overseas and India, the quality of education in India versus overseas, the university comparisons. And yes, today, if we have universities like Ashoka that are giving you a very, very global perspective, faculties from across the globe, then why not consider and look at it for sure, Anushka and Vinti, I'd like to hear from you. And I think Anushka's also had an experience where she did experience international exposure at Ashoka while studying. So Anushka and Vinti, over to you. I want you to share your experience.
Yeah. So I'll keep this short because actually a lot of people have covered the similar points, right? Like I think Rita ma'am spoke about the academic rigor. Udayanand also spoke about it being relevant. And I think that was something very crucial for me as well. Considering I went to a school where learning was fun, I wanted the university experience to also be like that. It being a highly rigorous and highly relevant education. And I think Ashoka clearly ticked that box. Another thing that was very, very crucial for me, I would hear horror stories from my mother about people going abroad and not liking it or, not finding their tribe. So that for me was really, really important. That
Vinti, did you make it up or was it real?
Maybe, I don't know, right? But that was a huge fear in my mind.
We had experiences, so that was also a very big thing, in our minds.
Sure.
So
I get it.
Wanted like-minded peers. That was a very, very important piece for me to thrive because you're really going away from home and you need to really have your tribe to be able to thrive. I think another very important thing for me as well, like in my mind, college was always a milestone where you get out of home for the first time, you get the right kind of exposure, you're independent, and people doing like cool things in college holistically. So that was an idealistic college for me as well. And I think that's one of the reasons why I chose Ashoka too. So,
Okay, for me, I think every parent, when you're choosing a college, you want the overall development, you want quality education, and you're looking at a great exposure for your child. So when we were looking at, Anushka was looking at universities abroad, we had kind of, she got through it. But when we came to Ashoka and we met, we saw the whole ground campus and everything. And that was it. We just said, no, this is it. The kind of quality that we're getting at half the price. Maybe better education than what we're getting abroad. And why not have Ashoka where she's close to home? We're getting good education. And I think the biggest deciding factor for me were the founders of Ashoka. When I came to know that Pramad is behind Ashoka, and we have people like Ashish Dhawan and other founders, somebody who's created ISB, like Pramad was behind ISB, which is the best institute today. So I think that really, really helped me take a call, because I think when Anushka joined, it was probably the second year. But the founders, the faculty was a very big deciding factor for me to take that step that, yes, if we could have an ISB, Ashoka is going to be right there. So it was like everybody behind Ashoka was a very, very important call for me. And I think the second most important thing was that it is one of the few liberal art colleges that we have in India. In fact, we don't have any as such. Ashoka is one of the best that we have. And it gives you that great exposure that what subject today, maybe my daughter says, I like economics, but when you're exposed to the different subjects, you feel maybe I like filmmaking more. So it gives you that flexibility, that exposure, and you know what is your right call. So that also was a very, very important thing for us. And lastly, I would say would be the placement. With the track record of the founders, the mentors out there, I felt it would be a stepping stone for my daughter to get her first job at the right place and kickstart her career. So I think these were the important points that helped us take a final call that Ashoka is the place to be.
Sure, definitely, yes. Vinti brought out a very, very important aspect, in terms of the founders at Ashoka, and just to give a little more insight into that. So we're one of the largest collective philanthropic initiatives in India. We have 200 plus founders and donors that have, been behind and created the university. She just mentioned Pramad Sinha. So he's one of the founding deans of, and he's behind ISB, which is one of the top management, colleges across the country. She also mentioned, Ashish Dhawan, who's one of the, largest, venture capitalists in the country, and so on and so forth. We have so many such, founders and donors. I mean, the list is all there, but they're coming from different industries, different experiences, and that is really the backbone of Ashoka. Definitely, yes. With that, I want to bring in, Anushka mentioned holistic, approach, and Ashoka's admission process and the whole application process is also very, very holistic. You don't get an entry into Ashoka basis your 12th board marks, right? So I just want all of you all to share your experience in terms of how is the whole application process like, in terms of your interviews, in terms of your application approach, all of that. Let's begin with Varnima. Varnima, I think it's been very latest for you that you've gone through that whole process of application. Would you want to kind of tell the audience, because I hear students getting so unnerved, and overwhelming by the whole process. But since you've gone through the whole process and you're sitting right there in your campus, in your dorm is what I'm assuming right now, please share how the whole experience was,
Sure. So, it goes without saying that the entire undergrad college application process is way too overwhelming and intimidating. And I don't think I was feeling any different while applying to Ashoka. But one thing that really set Ashoka apart from the other universities was how closely the regional counselors were working with the students of different schools. Particularly in my case, it was Himi who was working with me. And any doubts I had, anything that needed to be clarified, whether it was a logistical doubt or just something related to the application, she was just a call or a text away. So that was something that really helped me get through my application, even when I was panicking before the deadline. Also, as everyone's already mentioned, Ashoka, there's no one way of getting into Ashoka. So I just received some questions on the chat box as well. And Ashoka, though there's no cutoff, there's no definite percentage that can get you through. There's so much more to Ashokans than just their academic potential. So everyone on campus, there's something unique in them. There's something you would learn from each one present on campus. So that is what makes Ashoka different. At the same time, the interview process, which is said to be very rigorous, but and it was to a great extent, but the interviewers were so friendly, so understanding, and even though they gave me an opportunity to put myself across as candidly as I could, at the same time they allowed me to cover every aspect of my personality resume that I wanted to show to the admissions team. So that was something that was really different from the other university interview experiences that I had. Yeah, those were the highlights for me.
Yes, definitely, Varnima. As she mentioned, the admission teams reads every bit of what you read in your application, so there's no algorithm that sorts the applications here at Ashoka, and we make all the effort to know the student, and hence the holistic admission process. I'll be candid and honest. Yes, it's a little lengthy, but it's worth it. It's a very introspective journey that every student goes through, right? Tamanna, do you want to share your experience, or in terms of your application process? I think you wrote multiple essays as well, right? So the essay bit of it and your interview experience, kindly share.
Yeah, so the way it worked out for me, I had already applied to all the other universities. Ashoka was the very last one I did. And the process was honestly so refreshing, because it was such an exercise, like it was so unique compared to the rest. Like the essay prompts, I had answered all of the, why this university and why should you take me? But then Ashoka was like, what is your favorite word? And I was like, I've never had to think about this before, and I had to think about, okay, how can I express my personality and all of the things I want to convey to this university that's, the top of my list? How do I tell them all that through my favorite word? Or my, another one was like, a really impactful memory of my life. So I thought it was a really great exercise to and also I love creative writing. So I really enjoyed the process of those writing those essays. And I mean, Ashoka, like the admissions process is so holistic. And I feel like now that I'm here, I can see that reflected in the peers around me and how, every time I talk to someone, someone is doing, like everyone's doing such unique things. And I'm sure that's, a result of the kind of admissions process that Ashoka has. I had to give my 5 favorite books. That was a great, thing to sit and think about and write down. Yeah, so that I really enjoyed the admissions process. And another thing that I felt was really unique was, we as part of the aptitude assessment, we had to write an on-the-spot essay. And I was so used to, selling myself to universities as bio. And then in the on-the-spot essay, I had to write about capitalism or something. And I was like, wow, it just really encouraged me to be like a more, well-rounded individual, to have more topics and areas of interest, because sometimes you can feel, a little bit single, like one-dimensional, because I'm used to bio being such a big part of my, like personality, I suppose, that it was really good to step out of that and venture into other fields. Another big part of my application was the financial aid. And I felt pretty confident about that because, I had read the stats. I knew that more than half the students at Ashoka are on some degree of financial aid. So I felt pretty good about that. And of course, we were able to get the financial aid, which was amazing. I'm also on the STEM scholarship, which is a merit cum means scholarship. And that was like a completely different process where I had to write an SOP, where I had to give another interview. And I was interviewed actually by a biology faculty. So that interview was very different compared to the normal admissions interview. And it was pretty challenging, but it felt good to have, earned that scholarship through a process that's based on merit. So yeah, I really enjoyed the application process.
Yes, just for the audience, so Tamanna is one of the few students who made it for a merit cum means scholarship at Ashoka. It's a very unique scholarship that Ashoka offers for students who are looking at sciences, and she's bagged one of those scholarships. Definitely well deserving, so she's made it there. Rita, I have a question for you. Did you sit and write those essays for her? Did you help her with those essays, or she didn't even show you those essays? Because that you help students with their applications, I'm sure you added something there, or was she on her own?
Jidal, my daughter always complains, Mama, you spend so much time with other students, but you hardly give me any time.
Okay.
Yeah, but yes, so she really, as she said, she really enjoys writing, and that's been one of her forte right from early years, because as a family, we all we read a lot, and that's been nurtured to her by her elder sister also. So somewhere that reading has always helped her. And then writing is also a part that, all of us do that in some form or the other. And Tamanna in our family is somebody who really enjoys writing. So yes, we all used to read and enjoy whatever she used to write for every application. So I did guided her, right from the beginning in terms of any kind of skills which are important, not just for college application, but as an individual, what is very important when you'll go to a university and how you need to prepare yourself. In the application process, yes, we were involved as a family again, and not just as an individual counselor, but we used to enjoy giving her feedback. But she wouldn't let us come anywhere near in terms of writing for her, because that's what I feel is her forte, and she really enjoyed that process.
Good, absolutely, yes. Also, a piece of advice. Yes, Tamanna, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that Ashoka, the prompts are quite open-ended in the sense that you can make it about yourself, like I remember asking on one of these webinars that I attended, I asked, do you want, should the essays be straightforward? Can I make them creative? Can I make them abstract? And there's no right answer. Like for me, because I wanted to showcase that, yes, creative writing is something I enjoy, I made my essays creative. But if your essays are really straightforward, that's a perfectly fine thing to do. So you can, even within the essays, you can really customize it to your style and your skills.
Yes, absolutely. So this year's prompt, one of the prompts for this year's essay is, a fictional character that you identify with. So of course it can go any side, and yes, you can make it very creative. Definitely, yeah. Udayan, coming to you, I want you to highlight and talk about your interview experience. I in fact, I don't want to refer to as an interview. It's more like an interaction. But how was it for you? I mean, was it very intimidating? Was it like a smooth conversation? How did it flow?
So I think I had a very, like, the process for me would have, I think, been the same as Vandima and Tamanna. But to me, I think it felt really fair, if I have to really describe it. I felt like it was a very genuine conversation about wanting to get to know me. I remember, I think I did my on-the-spot essay, and then I went for the interview. Then I had the test after that. But so in my application, I'd written about, I write music, I'm a songwriter, I play the guitar. And for some reason, I just, on the day of the interview, just carried my guitar with me. I don't even know why. Instinctively, I thought, might as well. What is the worst case, they asked me to play it outside the room. But my interviewer asked me, he says, okay, I saw your application. Why don't you play something? Why don't you play something that you've written? And I just written.
So in your interview, you actually played something?
Yeah,
and
actually,
physical interviews, right? Right now it's online. Yeah.
So I actually ended up playing a song I just written. I don't even remember about what it was, but at that point, I really understood that someone wanted to get to know me. Someone wanted to know what I was capable of, and it almost felt like a chance to show off. Here's what you've written. Here's what you've talked about. Show it to us. It didn't feel like I had to prove anything, but more like there was a genuine interest in knowing who I was. That's why I think the moment I stepped into the interview, I wouldn't say it was intimidating. I would say, again, I would completely describe it. I think the word holistic was used when I think I won for one of Ashoka's presentations, just like this, right? Or it was in my school, but holistic was used a lot. And I think that's the point I understood what holistic meant, that it's not just down to one thing. It's more than anything, it's about you, everything about you. And I think that's why, again, I feel like it was a very fair process.
Absolutely. Yeah, great. And all throughout, I can see Anushka was just nodding her head saying, yes, I had something very similar. So Anushka, you want to share your experience? I know this is probably 4 or 5 years back.
8 years ago.
Yeah, 8 years ago. Yes. and your times were where I think there was a little more physical touch in terms of your interview process. And now the whole process is online.
Yeah.
While the process would have changed in terms of, online versus physical, but it still remains the same in terms of,
same. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I went for a recent outreach event as well, and actually the process is super similar. And I completely side with Tamanna and Udayan, when they say that it was such a fun, refreshing process. They just get you to think, right? And that's really what the college is also like. You're thinking about why do you want to do certain things, what you've accomplished. And even the interview, even though it happened 8 years ago, I remember it very, very clearly because it was supposed to be a 20-minute interview and we ended up speaking for 45 minutes. And I got out feeling just so happy and so fulfilled. It was just such an interesting discussion, though I think it was more about me, exactly how they said, but it was still they just got you to think, right? Why did you do this? What would you do differently? What did you learn through this experience? And one question that I remember, which for me was okay, I really want to be in this college, was again, we had an on-the-spot essay and my topic was some argumentative essay. In those days, I can say now that Facebook was the cool thing. So it was something around Facebook and public opinion. So I think I'd argued for, and then they said, okay, now can you argue against? And that's really the cornerstone of Ashoka, right? Thinking from multiple perspectives. And for me, that was just such a fun exercise. And I was really, really looking forward to the ride ahead. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Ashoka pushes you to think from multiple aspects, and sometimes you really have to nudge yourself because you only, thinking in one direction. And one tip for everybody who's looking at Ashoka, interview is not about they asking you questions and you answering. It's an interaction. You're also allowed to ask questions, show your curiosity, ask them whatever you want to know, bring in conversations that you want to bring in. It's not just about the panelist asking you, definitely. With that, I have my next set of questions in terms of how has been the experience of being on the campus. We looked at the whole application process, but once you're inside the Ashoka campus and you're experiencing the academics, the non-academic aspect, and I know that we have so many clubs and societies and there's a whole life on campus. So I just want all of you all to share your experience in terms of your courses, in terms of your faculty, or open conversations, your midnight conversations on what happens, all of that. Yeah, Varnima, let's begin with you. Do you want to, I think you've been on the campus for 6-8 months now.
I've been on campus for the last 4 months.
Yes.
So,
yes.
It's a relatively short time.
The home food, or do you want to go back home, or are you great on the campus? How is it like?
I'm good on campus. There's almost everything I need. So there's nothing very specific that I miss about home. Home is different, but at the same time, as my mom already mentioned, Ashoka is home away from home. So there's nothing in specific that I really miss. But
you're not even missing mom's food. Shilpa, she's not even missing on your food.
Yeah, she does. But then I think Ashoka more than makes up for it with its wide array of, cuisine that's always laid out in the mess, as Varnima so precisely puts it, that
Yes.
you're spoiled for choice.
Absolutely. And I hear a lot of conversations about dhaba as well. Varnima, why don't you also talk about your FC experiences? How has it been,
Sure. So, the first semester, students are only allowed to go for the foundation courses. This is what is something really unique about Ashoka, because through these foundation courses, it lets you explore different disciplines. I personally would have never thought about taking up psychology, but the mind and behavior course that I'm currently doing in my second sem is something that is exposing me even to fields that I never planned on taking up. So, and when it comes to the faculty, whether it's the faculty who teach the foundation courses or the major minor courses, faculty is extremely approachable. There is, at any point in time you have doubts, you can book office hours, or just have a casual conversation with your professor or your TF. I remember having an office hours with my TF at the dhaba. So it was something really casual, very conversational, free flowing. They're always there to help you out. The main objective of the foundation courses is that it caters to a general audience. So it's not going to be something very rigorous, intensive, but at the same time, it gives you a very good taste and flavor of what you can expect in that particular discipline. So that is something that can help you explore different fields and then maybe reach some sort of a conclusion about what interests you. But you're not required to declare your major or come in with a very rigid mindset that, okay, this is what I have to major in. So that flexibility continues to be there until your third or your fourth semester. So that's not even a worry for the incoming students. And yeah, I think I've learned a lot from the foundational courses, given that I never planned on taking these subjects up. But now that I have a good idea of each of them.
Wait till you get into the third semester. There's a lot in store. When I hear stories about students whom I have counseled, and they've said, I'm very clear I'm going to take up, say, economics as my major. And when I talk to them after 3 semesters, they're like, ma'am, I'm graduating with computer science. And I was like, wow, that happened. So, that happens very often at Ashoka. But it's amazing. I mean, it's coming out of choice that you've explored all of that, right? Yes, great. Thank you so much. Shilpa ma'am, you have something to share?
Yes, I would want to talk about the teaching pedagogy over here, which I have observed is alternative approach. It would be like, encouraging to basically connect their current topics with what what they may come across in future, that connection, that relativity. So I believe Ashoka does adopt that integrative approach, that method of teaching. So that is one thing about the teaching pedagogy that I would want to mention. The other is the inquiry-based approach, wherein the students are encouraged to explore, investigate by means of research projects. So there again, that gives rise, that encourages that critical thinking aspect in the students, which I feel is worth mentioning about the teaching over here.
Absolutely, yes. Very important aspect which Shilpa ma'am brought in is the critical thinking piece, which is one of the foundation courses at Ashoka. And as she said, as many times that I've interacted with every Ashoka student, one thing common is they ask a lot of questions because that inquiry method is just, inbuilt into the DNA of Ashoka, I think, and the right set of questions,
Probe, constantly probe, find,
yes.
research. And yes, one more thing that I just forgot that's also worth mentioning is that other variety of essays, then projects, the essays, obviously a lot of research work goes into it. And it is through that that critical, that analytical aspect also stems in, where, the students are actually exploring within themselves and outside of themselves, both, So that dichotomy in the teaching system.
Yes. Very, very well brought out. Yes. Tamanna, you want to share about your experience on being on the campus, or your faculty, or also, is it too rigorous? Are you able to cope up, or do you really have to stay up all night? Are you doing any projects, research till now? What is it like?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I'd heard that, Ashoka is super academically rigorous. You better be up for it. But you should see our campus right now. Like, the weather is brilliant. So it's so cold and chilly, but sunshine. So the lawns are just covered with people. Everyone's just strewn on the lawns. That doesn't mean it's not academically rigorous. It is. But you just learn how to deal with it, and you adapt to the system. And I mean, I don't know if we covered the clubs and societies. We have so many, everything from baking to computers to stand-up comedy to music to Western choir, traditional choir. We have so much going on. Like, at any given day, you will have at least 2 events happening on campus, organized by students. So it's definitely not that, you can't balance academics with extracurriculars. You can, and the student body manages to do that, and that's why the campus is so vibrant and happening all the time. One of the first things I felt when I came into Ashoka is I got this sense of that, like, the university cares. Like, there are so many sort of additional things that were provided to us that aren't that don't happen at every university. Like, when I came in, the very first week was called O Week, and we had everything from treasure hunts. We were put in cohorts so that we would have an easier time making friends. There's like so much that goes on at the university other than academics, which really helps you live like a much more exciting life. We also had colloquiums in the first week where we were introduced to all of the different fields. And the attitude at those colloquiums, the way they spoke about those subjects, that's like one of the reasons now that I'm thinking of, okay, maybe I should do, like you were saying, like I never thought of CS before, but I came in and the people, the students, they're so passionate about it. They're so inviting. They're like, you don't need a background in it. We'll help you out. So everything feels so accessible. So now I'm like, okay, maybe I can do a CS minor. And yeah, one of the things I was looking forward to most when I came to Ashoka was doing the foundation courses. And I was excited because I thought I would do, new subjects I've never done before, like philosophy and economics and psychology. A thing that I didn't expect was even the subjects that I have done before, learning them at Ashoka was it was so different from how I've learned those things in school, I had a course called Indian Civilizations, which is essentially a history course. And in school, history was just about, here is your textbook, these are the events that happened, these are the dates, these are the facts. It's so like static and, frozen in time. And we learned history as such a dynamic thing of, it changes constantly. You have to ask questions. You have to, question who is interpreting your history. How do you know about this history? It was almost like our professor kept prompting us. She said, you have to be detectives and you can't just blindly believe anything, that you see. You have to, think critically about everything. And so even subjects I have studied before were so exciting to study at Ashoka. Yeah, and of course, biology has been great. Like I was going through my old notes before this webinar. I was looking at, when I was applying, okay, I had seen this professor's work and that professor's work. And now like I'm studying under those professors and it's so exciting. So yeah, Ashoka has been incredible.
Thank you, Tamanna, for sharing that experience. And yes, as she's mentioned, in an Ashoka classroom, it's not a monologue. It's not where the professor walks in and just lectures you for an hour, you make your notes and you walk out. That's not how it works. It's a two-way conversation. It's also what you bring into the classroom. There's a lot of focus on peer learning as well, in the classrooms. Udayan, you want to share your experience, considering that you have like a 4-year experience, you picked up 1 major, 2 minors as well, all of that. How has been your experience on the campus,
So I think the first thing, 2 years obviously were at home, but because of COVID, but I still thought, I think someone mentioned right now, the professors cared. They really made sure to adapt the course, the assessment, to make sure that you are learning at the end of the day. Even like cold calling you in the middle of the lecture, something like that. So from that front, I genuinely thought, this is just also this is an online experience, but offline, I still remember my foundation courses. I'm completing my political science minor, and I keep reverting back to things I learned in my first or second semester. And I think that's just shows how much you pick up with the way that's been taught. I've also gotten the chance, so clubs and societies are mentioned. So you get to take up leadership roles as well in these clubs and societies, and you don't have to be part of one club. You can be part of multiple clubs at one go as well. For that matter, events are not only limited to the what's the student body is doing. Even academic departments are constantly having some speaker series. Just I think 2 weeks ago, Professor Kaushik Basu came, and I think it was just a packed hall just listening to him talk. And it's really interesting because these are people you read in classes and then finally get to interact with them, ask them questions. And that chance, I don't think I would have gotten anywhere else. But speaking of leadership roles, there's also, I think it varies from academic departments, because I'm part of 2-3 academic departments now. But you get the opportunity to take up teaching assistant roles, where you're working directly under the professor. Your roles differ from professor to professor, course to course, but I think it's a great chance for you to also. So I was a teaching assistant last semester. I'm a teaching assistant this semester as well. One for an economics course, now for an international relations course. And I think there you're really taught, you can see behind the scenes how, what is the professor thinking when they're trying to focus on one topic. What are they, why are they doing certain things a certain way? And getting that kind of exposure at still in your undergrad level, I think I think that was a really great experience for me, and I encourage everyone to do, take this up, and also because you start developing some sort of rigor to your studying as well, and seeing how to go about things. So I think interaction with faculty, I've never seen a faculty say no to office hours. They are very happy to have you and talk to you about their fields, and they always recommend things that you ask them, and they'll suggest a book or suggest a paper. And so I think that interaction is always encouraged as well.
Udayan, also, I think you just went through the whole placement process, right? Do you want to just touch upon that as well? I mean, how is the placements work at Ashoka? Do you really get to pick and choose? What is the kind of mentoring that happens,
So I will not mention exact policies right now. I think
that's technical, but just
yeah. So we have the option, I think, in the third and fourth year both, to be part of the placement cycle. I tried out the placement cycle because I knew I wanted to do the fourth year. So, but in the third year, I just wanted to join it as well. So it's not alien to me. And even I feel like if I hadn't done that, it would be very comfortable as well. Because the career development office is always open to questions. They have student POCs. So in case there's a problem, that let's say there's some lecture happening that's coinciding with a firm is coming with their pre-placement talk. So the student POCs are also there to help you out, relay certain important communication. But there is definitely choice. There is no one who's forcing you to go and apply to a particular firm. No one's applying you have to go for a particular CTC. And you're always, so you technically have a pre-placement talk, which is just be a presentation. And what's great is that you get to ask questions. It's not a one-way conversation. And then you really get to decide whether you want to, go through with this application process or not. And it's, some firms come at some other time, some firms, that kind of schedule varies, of course. I wanted to get into marketing. Initially, the firms that came were consulting and banking. But that communication was always there, that, here's, they'll come later. This is what you should look at. And we're also geared so we were enrolled, everyone was part of the placement cycle, was enrolled in this online program. And also experts were coming constantly through webinars such as these, where, how to make your LinkedIn profile, what to do in a CV. But like let's say the online program that I was a part of, it says how to tackle group discussions, how do you define certain, even fundamental aspects, like how do you define a problem, or how to go through this interview process, and you get tested on it. So in the entire process, I never felt like I was alone. I always, other than, of course, my friends were there as well, and everyone's constantly encouraging you. But from an institutional point of view, I always thought that if I had a doubt, if I have to, okay, is this form coming that day? I can send a mail and get an answer as soon as possible. And that gave me a lot of confidence in going into these interviews and not feeling, have to worry about logistical factors or something or the other. So that kind of support and backing is definitely there.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Ravish sir, did you really help in influence and support him through this whole interview process, or was he on his own? Would he discuss with you, do I take this, not take this? I'm sure you also have a lot of experience.
We did have some discussions. I won't say that we didn't, but most of the time it was his own initiative. He would come up with an idea that this is what I want to do. And I would encourage him to explore and understand why he wants to do something.
Sure.
The overall process, I would think that he led from
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you also feel that probably he's capable enough and he's able to kind of make that own decision, Yeah.
I feel it's very important that I think all parents for all parents, the children remain children, and I think we tend to underestimate them. So given a chance, honestly, I would let them jump into the deep end of the pool and let them learn to swim. And believe me, I think most of the time you will see their hidden talent come out and see what they haven't, which has remained unexplored. Like, again, go back to my thinking that the education system largely up to the school level is rather, it gives limited opportunities because of whatever exam system and whatnot. But post that, I think they should they should be allowed to take a flight. It's important. And also, I'm a firm believer that education is not just in the classroom, which is what Ashoka offers wonderfully. There's education from the peer group, there's education from the senior, there's also learning from the diverse activities. Nobody knew, somebody maybe wanted to learn chemistry and he also discovered that he has also a hidden talent for theater. So now those are the things which I believe those such opportunities do not exist in most of our conventional universities, and those are something very unique to Ashoka. And I think, as you said, yes, there is life at Ashoka because the campus is such a vibrant place. And I think I sometimes wonder that why students don't want to come home.
Which I've heard a lot of parents say. So when they join Ashoka, the parents are overwhelmed, saying that I hope my child settles well, all of that. But then 6 months, the child doesn't want to come back. Like summers also, I've had students who like, no, we'll intern here. We don't want to go back home. So yes, yeah. Rita and Shilpa, you will soon experience that. Your kids will not want to come back home. Yes. Thank you, Ravish, for sharing that. And with that, I think I'm just keeping a check on the time. We've a little overshooted, but yes, I definitely want to hear Anushka and Vinti also on your campus experience. And also, I think you've had a global exposure also when you went in for some summer program outside. So do talk about that before we take in the questions from the audience as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to take the liberty to share a little bit more, considering I graduated around 5 years ago, a little bit of a long-term view and the benefits that I'm seeing today. Right? One is definitely the alumni network. It's a fabulous network to be a part of. People constantly helping each other, people in the most prestigious organizations, be it Bain, McKinsey, Google, a part of large education institutions like Harvard, UPenn, all of that, right? So it's a huge network, a growing network. It's almost like a ticket to having a conversation with whoever you want. Now more than when I just graduated, because people across India globally are recognizing Ashoka and its brand value a lot more now. So it's sort of like when someone from Harvard messages you, you want to have a chat with them. Ashoka is sort of like that, right? And I'm beginning to realize it now more than ever. Another thing that I'm beginning to realize now more than ever, I think Shilpa ma'am spoke about it, right? Which is the logical thinking. So quick context. And I also saw a question on this, right? Are Ashoka students employable compared to other conventional colleges? So I work with students in an organization called Craftshala, and it's a pay after placement model, right? So we have to train them in digital marketing and other pieces and make sure that they are employable. And one of the largest pieces that we've seen, which is a hindrance where students don't convert internships into a job offer, is problem solving. And that, as we've already discussed and spoken so much about, is the cornerstone of Ashoka. And I didn't even realize that it had become a part of my DNA till very recently, where people were like, you don't realize that you're a part of the top 10% in this country. People don't have the critical thinking abilities, the problem solving abilities that, say, an average Ashoka student have, right? Because interdisciplinary thinking, questioning, making, education relevant and really thinking about different pieces. A lot of people said, defining the problem, hypothesizing, all of that has now become a part of me, right? And I don't even realize it. In fact, I'm building problem solving courses for our students, and not a day goes by where I don't think, okay, how is it taught at Ashoka? And I've even reached out to A lot of the professors back there, the pro VC who actually taught me case studies, and ask them, okay, how do you break it down? Because now it's become like second nature to me, and I don't know how to teach it to other people. So to answer the question of employability as well, which I think is a very, very important question. So I sort of want to touch upon that. There was a Bloomberg report as well, which basically said, what are the skills that organizations are looking for and students don't have? And problem solving actually topped that, right? Now with Chat GPT and so many things becoming so, so much towards AI, you need people who can think, right? Who can work with uncertainties, ask the right questions. So now more than ever, colleges like Ashoka are the ones that are going to produce the more employable students, right? And in fact, they've paved the way for other organizations or higher education institutes to actually say, okay, we need to probably rethink how we're teaching stuff and really teach the right stuff in the right way. So yeah, I sort of want to touch upon that. Another piece, maybe I'm repeating what Udayanan has said, but I sort of want to touch upon that as well. Coming to just the internships and stuff, I interned at an organization called Centa, which was again started by an ex-McKinsey partner, who again came in because of the founders' connections and stuff, right? So there's really so many opportunities. And I think I learned so much about data analysis, about, networking and all of that from her. So tons and tons of opportunities at Ashoka, but definitely beyond. I think it's a super, super exciting place to be in and a movement to be a part of.
Yes. And your summer experience?
My summer experience, so I went to Tel Aviv University to do entrepreneurship, and it was fabulous. Because we actually, so Tel Aviv is known as the startup nation, for those who don't know. We had Priyank Narayanan, who's the director of CFE, actually come with us. We even had one of our founders come with us. And we interacted with multiple startups there and really learned entrepreneurship by actually spending time with a startup. So in the mornings, we would have our theory sessions. And then in the evenings, we would just go and spend time with a very, very large startup portfolio that the professor at Tel Aviv University had. So it was super fun, super exciting, and obviously not possible if it wasn't for, Ashoka.
Sure. So it's really learning on the job, being out there. Absolutely. Yeah. One last question that I want to ask Vinti is, what were the changes that you saw in Anushka when she enrolled in Ashoka and when she graduated from Ashoka? Was there like a different side to Anushka?
So Anushka has always been a very, very confident child. And, her teachers would call her, tell me why. She was Miss Tell Me Why, because everything was like, why? But Ashoka, I think, just made her from that 0.5 to point, I don't know where, it was suddenly too many whys happened. So, and I think to sum it up, I should really put it like this. I have my younger one who's in the 11th grade now. And after looking at Anushka, her dream college is Ashoka. So I think, there's no better way to end it that, that's the best example that, when you see your older one go there, it's a dream college to be in Ashoka. So I think it answers all the questions, So I really would sum it up like that's the dream college of my daughter. So, it's the answer to that.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing your experiences. And I think our audience has a bunch of questions to ask, and we have very limited time, but we'll try and answer a few questions here. I'm just going to read out the question, and, whoever feels that you want to take that question, please, chime in and, share your experience around that. We've covered some answers, as well. So yeah, the first question is, I didn't take math in 12th. So can I major in economics and finance from Ashoka? I am in 12th ISC board. So yes, technically, economics is a requirement for, math is a requirement for eco and fin. But if you've dropped math, the economics department has relaxed that, and you can still come in at Ashoka. You have to take up a bridge course and a calculus course in your first semester. And, if you qualify with that, you can actually go ahead with eco-fin. That wasn't a case earlier, but yes, now the eco department has relaxed it. So without a math, the answer is yes, you can come in. The second question that we have is, what marks is required in 10th and 11th so that I can get admission at Ashoka. Okay, so it's a holistic admission process, which means we're looking at your grades for 3 years, 10th, 11th, 12th, all 3 years, but there is no benchmark or there's no prerequisite saying you should be in your 90s, or if you're doing IB, you should be 42, 45. It's a holistic admission process, which means we look at everything. But yes, we're also looking at consistency of scores, so we're looking at how consistent you've been in your scores. Yes. The next question is, how employable does an undergrad from Ashoka student hold in the market, especially in comparison to conventional colleges? I think Anushka's already answered that, and she's out there in the market and she can actually see that. So we'll not take that, but we'll look at another question. Can you throw some light on the housing facilities at Ashoka? Tamanna or Varnima, do you want to take that, because you're sitting in those dorms right there and I can see those in your backgrounds? So can you talk about the housing facilities in terms of how does it work?
So as I mentioned previously, Ashoka is a fully residential college. So housing facilities will be provided to everyone who is given admission into the university. And it's also mandatory to stay on campus. So we have RHs, we have 5 RHs at the moment. And then there's nothing bad about the dorms. So there are rooms. I think there are 70 people staying on each floor, and there is cross access that's allowed till 12:30. So there's no restriction on boys and girls going into each other's dorms from 8 a.m. to 12:30. There is a housekeeping facility. There is maintenance. So you can call any of them whenever you need it, and they'll be there within like 15 to 20 minutes. These RHs are cleaned the washrooms are cleaned at least twice or thrice every day. So it's not very, usually you won't find it unclean or dirty. So that's not a concern. And yeah, that's about the housing, I think.
So we stay in a twin sharing basis. So each room is occupied by 2 people. And I think a very integral part of our housing is that on each floor we have 2 resident assistants. We have 2 RAs. So on my floor, there are 2 fourth years, and they are there to help you at any time. If you need any help, any assistance, any advice, there's someone that you can talk to and someone you can go to for help always.
Yeah. Also for the audience, you don't do your laundry. You don't have to wash clothes on the campus. Students who are assuming we will have to. Yeah. Okay. With that, let's just take a few more questions. Take it up. Udayan, Anushka, do you want to really talk about, when somebody wants to take up business, and I get these questions very often that, I didn't see business on the list, but we don't call it a business course, but essentially if you're doing these courses, you technically, or to me, you're almost at a level of an MBA program, Yeah. Anushka, do you want to take that? Yeah.
Yeah, I can do it as well, and Udayan can kind of add. So yeah, I completely agree, right? And like, what is business basically? And I know I'm talking about problem solving a lot, but it is basically problem solving, right? And you're doing that at multiple levels, right? The other thing I really want to talk about is CFE, which is the Center for Entrepreneurship. So people who don't know, the director of CFE, Priyank Narayan, and he actually released a book along with an IIM professor called Leapfrog. Right. And the sessions there are also super fun. In fact, they have a lot of the Harvard business case studies that I remember studying. Right. So it's pretty hands-on, right? The stuff that you need to do a business degree is there. Maybe accounting to some degree may not be there, but that's something you can always learn on your own, right? There's so many pieces out there. So I would say, don't think of striking out Ashoka because it doesn't have a business degree, because there are so many, if I have the liberty to say, better options out there. And the conventional business subjects that aren't there, you can always self-learn. Like, I'm self-learning accounting right now. And if anyone wants resources, I'm happy to share. But yeah, that would sort of be my take.
Udayan, I have a next question for you, and it's basis international relations that I can see, and hence I want to pose that question to you. So the question is, I'm looking forward to taking up IR for my BA. Does Ashoka provide that program? And if it does, is it necessary to history as a subject as well while you're pursuing IR? So you did IR with history, without history, I don't know, but you please give some insights into this. Yeah.
Right. So the first question, history and IR is actually taught as an interdisciplinary major, which I think economics and finance is another interdisciplinary major. A lot of people do take it up because it gels really well, those two fields. But it completely depends on the kind of IR course you're taking. There are multiple types of IR courses. There are some theory-based, there are some case-based. I've done both history and theory-based courses and the options are varied. There are a lot of, you can look at war as a subject, you look at, I think refuges as a subject, nation, we've also cross-listed with Paul science courses, so you also look at, gender and IR for that matter, diplomacy and IR. So there isn't really a requirement to do history. There is, of course, just because IR is a field that has some of its roots in historical understanding. That is not really any large fundamental core that is historically embedded in it, I would say.
Sure. Yes. And, as Udayan said, there's a lot of interdisciplinarity at Ashoka. So we're looking at, subjects overlapping, all of that. History is a major, IR history is also a combination that you can look at. It's up to you. But yes, the flexibility is always there. You have your first 3 semesters to explore all of this and then, really pick in, what combination you want to take. There's one more question which says, what is the way that you can, take grants or scholarships at Ashoka? So Ashoka offers a financial aid policy, which is a pure need-based financial aid. Once you get to the offer stage, which means you've cleared your application, you got shortlisted through an interview, and you have a Ashoka offer letter, that's where you can apply for a financial aid at Ashoka. And we're very proud of the fact that till date, we've been able to support every student that has applied for financial aid to us. Also, as we've mentioned, we have a merit cum means scholarship for students, which, we just spoke about. Tamanna's made it to that one, which is specifically for sciences. So these are the 2 ways that you can look at some grants from the university. The next question that we have is on the safety aspect at Ashoka. I think, Rita, from a parent perspective, you said that you went and you actually saw the campus also. So what was it like? Is it really safe being on the campus? And I have here actually parents and students from, I think, across. We're covering all geographies: Delhi, Bangalore, Kolkata, Mumbai, and everybody sent their kid out there. So, Rita, do you want to talk about the safety aspect, and anybody else who also wants to add in? Yeah.
So, Jinal, yes, I also do get this question a lot from, parents saying that, okay, Delhi should be sent, and it could be for any geography for that matter. But the moment when we decided to take that campus tour, we said that let's experience the way a student will normally travel. And we took the shuttle from Jangipuri. And the moment we sat in that shuttle, that itself gave you an experience of safety there. Because that from there, the shuttle will drop you at the gate. And the moment you are inside the campus, it's 100% safe. And the facility of that shuttle, which runs every half an hour, and the last shuttle, which is at 11 o'clock, that itself says that, okay, you can go and experience, visit anyone or your home or your relatives, or go to the market or wherever in Delhi, and then come back. And the shuttle itself is like, at a point which is very convenient. So that's one aspect. And Tamanna always says that inside the campus, you never feel you are in Delhi or Sonipat or anywhere. You feel as if you are in a vibrant community of, students who are from all across. So I feel that, the whole feeling that, yes, which is very important for any parent. And the other part is, yes, they are always approachable. You can call them anytime, which is normal for anyone. But I feel that whole facility of providing them a commute to, between Sonipat to Delhi is a huge satisfaction. and the moment they reach campus, they are 100% safe.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. So Rita's taken the campus tour before she actually enrolled Tamanna, or and that's my advice to most parents, that go and book your campus tour. The link is already mentioned in the chat box. You can actually experience it for yourself, how the whole system works. And everything that the student needs is on the campus, right? From a stationery shop to a salon to a gymnasium, swimming pool, you name it, and it's all there. There's no reason for them to step out on a daily basis. There's a coffee shop, there's a dhaba, which is open 24/7. So midnight snacking is also taken care. So everything's inside that 25 acres. There's no reason for students to step out on a daily basis as per their needs. However, of course, we're not caging them. So they're allowed to explore. They're adults. They want to go out. And hence the shuttle service comes, really handy, right from 6 in the morning to 11 at night, both sides from the campus to the closest metro station, which is the Jangir-Puri metro station, to and fro, and security on both ends, Having said that, I think you should just go and take a campus tour for yourself, just to feel a little more comfortable around this whole system. With that, I think we'll just take one more last question. Do you get resources like the internet or from on the spot essay? Is it online, and how much time do you get to write? Okay. As part of the application process, once you submit your application, we have given the dates for your on-the-spot essay and your aptitude test. Of course, you will need to log in or know yourself and connect to the internet, of course. It's open from 9 in the morning till 4 in the evening, so you can log in anytime and take that at the comfort of your time. The on-the-spot essay is 30 minutes, so you timed, of course, for that as well. Yeah. So that was our last question, and we've already overshooted our time. With that, I'll just come to the closing note for the session. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the panel discussion. It was a great time. I mean, every time I interact with parents and students, it's such an enriching experience, and I get to hear so many more perspectives about Ashoka. For our audience, please take a minute to share your feedback with us. The link for the feedback is mentioned in the chat box. Our next webinar is scheduled on coming Friday, which is 17th of February at 6 p.m. on computer sciences at Ashoka with Dibayan Gupta. He's an assistant professor for computer science at the university and a very, very popular professor amongst the students as well. The registration link for the same is provided in the chat box, so you can just register yourself for the next webinar in case you're interested. A few last points before we wrap up today's session. I'd also like to inform you that our audience, that our round 3 applications for the undergraduate programs are open. You can secure your admissions without the 12th board marks or your CUET score. The last day to submit your application for the round 3 is 15th of April. Students and parents can visit the Ashoka University for a campus tour. The link to register for the campus tour is also provided in the chat box. There are fixed dates, so it's always advisable that you kind of pre-book your campus tours. If you have any further queries regarding various aspects of the university, feel free to write to us to ugapply@ashoka.edu.in or call us on the numbers which are shown on the screen right now. Once again, thank you, all our speakers, panelists, students, parents, for participating in this discussion. It was lovely, having all of you all here. And this brings us to the end of this session. Have a good week, and wishing all of you all luck for, your future endeavors. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.